going on, ladies and gentlemen? Today we are breaking down the track bike that I have been whipping around this velodrome, the San Diego velodrome, all season long. This right here is my BMC TrackMachine TR01. This frame set is the same exact frame set that Rohan Dennis rode to a successful hour record a few years back. In addition, it was a specifically team-designed bike for the Swiss Olympic team in, I think, 2018. Even still, in 2022, this frame set is one of the absolute most aero options out there. This frame set is absolutely gorgeous. I really dig the nice flat carbon weave that BMC touts on the TrackMachine TR01. The top tube has a really interesting shape to it. As you can see, it's got a T profile, and ideally that takes the air around the bayonet fork, pushes it back over the seat tube, and ideally keeps a laminar air profile flowing over your rear disc. On top of that, the seat stays have a really sleek design as well, continuing that airflow. BMC did a great job with this frame set, allowing you to run pretty much any chainring size that you might want to. Now that's important because, as most of you probably already know, a big front chainring with a big rear cog is actually more efficient overall for your single speed drivetrain. On the front, I'm running a 61 tooth Affinity Chainring. Now, of course, I can run much larger on this bike, way up to even probably a 65, but realistically, I don't need to because the 61 tooth allows me to make pretty much every gear that I might want to make when racing out here at the San Diego velodrome. I can make 97 inches, absolutely no problem, which is actually the perfect race gear for mass start racing right here on Tuesday nights. Overall, I can up this to like 110 inches if need be for Kieran nights, amongst other events where you're doing 40 miles an hour plus and you don't want to get spun out. Mated to this 61 tooth chainring is the ROTOR ALDHU Modular Crankset. Now that crankset maintains the super aero look that I really like on this bike and keeps everything nice and sleek. Now the crank arms themselves are only 165 millimeters. That's quite a bit shorter than what I ride on the road at 172.5, and the reason being is because on steeper banking, I don't want to accidentally clip a pedal, and I do race this bike up north in LA where the banking is around 45 degrees. That's the last thing I need to happen. Speaking of pedals, as you guys can see, I am running the Look Keo cleat setup, and that is because these are my Favero Asioma power pedals. These pedals allow me to swap pretty much between all of my bikes. I can run them on my TT bike, I can run them on the track machine that you see here, and I run them every single day on my road bike without any problems. And overall, I don't have any problems with tension adjustment, unclipping, anything like that I know some people have griped about in the past. I will say they're a little bit tougher to clip into, but over time you get pretty used to it, and realistically it's not like a clip in and go thing usually anyway, except in the event of a crit when you start at the front, you can't clip in, you get filtered all the way to the back because you're an idiot. Now we already touched on the bayonet fork system that BMC uses on the track machine, but what we haven't talked about yet is the proprietary stem system. This might actually be the only thing I don't like about the bike because it does limit your overall stem length to only 130 millimeters. With my narrow bar width at the front here, that has overall pushed me up into the wind a little bit, so I actually need a little bit more reach than that. Against manufacturer recommendations, I hit up a local bike shop here in San Diego in North County, and they hooked me up with an extra stem kit. That stem kit, along with some longer bolts from my boy Mike, allowed me to go ahead and add another 20 millimeters to this stem, making it 150 millimeter overall length, which is absolutely ideal for my setup on this bike. This 150 millimeter stem length allows me to run my VeloFlyer Hellier 2 handlebars without any problems whatsoever. It's really nice when I want to get long and low off the front and ride on basically these faux hoods here or the horns on the bike. This keeps my back nice and flat when I'm off the front, and I still have no problems getting deep in the drops when I need to. As you guys will notice, there's a little bit of grip tape attached to the top here. This is VeloFlyer grip tape. This allows me just a little bit extra grip when I'm not wearing gloves and I'm just using gym chalk to keep the hands dry. Now I know you might be thinking, these bars are for mass start racing only, and that's not the case. These bars are no stranger to sprints. They allow me to get pretty deep, and they're actually deeper than my Scottos were. These bars being so deep allows my hip angle to stay open when I rotate my hips forward and I'm trying to get in that Aero really low sprint or off the front position. Let's talk a little bit more about that hip angle. This is probably my biggest gripe with my current setup, and that's actually the aftermarket Pro Stealth saddle that I have on the bike currently. When I rotate my hips forward in an Aero riding position in really any fashion or for any reason, I often find it's really uncomfortable and I get a lot of pressure in a lot of not so ideal places for that kind of pressure. So the one thing I'm probably going to upgrade on this bike pretty soon before next season is the saddle. Now it's not too bad because I don't spend a ton of time in this saddle. Obviously it's a track bike, so the duration of all races is pretty short overall, but in the end I do want something that's a little bit more comfortable and will also suit me for pursuits. Okay guys, time to talk about my absolute favorite part of this whole bike setup, and that is the wheel set. I'm running this beautiful Walker Brothers front and rear wheel set. Walker Brothers is a super small company out of the UK that makes really high-end carbon wheel sets, especially tubular ones like this for the track. So if we talk about the front, you guys will see it's a full carbon 5-spoke construction and it's all one solid piece. This is much more aero than your regular box section rim, and I do like the solid construction of it overall. Now moving to the rear, we're going to talk about the disc. This disc is not your typical spoked wheel with just a skin over the top of it. It's actually a fully tensioned carbon weave, which keeps the wheel extremely light and easy to wind up when you need it to. Overall, the weight of this thing comes in just over 650 grams, which is ideal for a track bike wheel set like this. Before this rear disc, I was ripping a Taiwanese full carbon disc, and overall, you can really feel the difference in snap when you want to wind this thing up and start stomping on the pedals. Once you get up to around 30 or 35 miles an hour, it's insane the difference between this wheel set and just a regular box section wheel set. The aerodynamic drag is a completely different animal, and if I had to guess without testing these, I would say I'm probably saving anywhere from 30 to 40 watts, and trust me, I have felt it on race night when I'm racing on just crappy training wheels. Now, both of these wheels are glued up with some tubular Vittoria Corsa G 2.0s. I did have a piece of speed on the front of this bike, but unfortunately, RIP to the piece of speed when I hit a goat head outdoors here at San Diego. That really was the driving factor in me switching over to the Corsa Graphene 2.0s instead of the speeds, knowing that my racing is typically going to be outdoors and most of my indoor racing is extremely limited, except for sometimes in the winter. Of course, this video wouldn't be complete without me talking a little bit about the cost of the bike overall. So first thing is the frame set. I picked it up used for about $3,200. With the wheel set included, I think that was another $1,700 or so dollars. So all in all, once you start counting tires, chain rings, crankset, and everything else, and all the other ins and outs that I've upgraded on this bike, you're probably looking at anywhere from $5,500 to $6,000 for an extreme super bike setup like this one. Now, of course, not everybody needs a bike like this when you're first starting track racing. I started out on a State Black Label V2. If you want to check out that build video or my review on that, maybe check out this video right here. If you enjoy track racing overall, you want to see some race content or maybe even more bike builds in the future, or if you love road cycling in general, then I highly recommend subscribe to the channel. And if you guys want to hook it up with the algorithm, like this video, get it shown to more people. As always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys again soon.